So what's the difference between an accent and a dialect? Basically, an accent is the sounds, rhythms, and melodies of speech, and dialect is that plus everything else. There are two special little wrinkles, one that has to do with North American theater and film, and one that has to do with the way linguists feel about the word dialect. I'll get to those at the end of the video, so stick around if you want to get into the weeds with me. A little more about the basics. The word accent comes from the Latin ad meaning to, and cantus meaning song, so accent originally meant a song that is added to speech. In other words, it's like a weird melody added on top. It's not the normal way of speaking, it's the way those other people talk, those people over there who talk different from us.
Why are you looking at me?
Now, it's totally normal to think that you don't have an accent, that only those people over there do. We've been doing that since the beginning. But as you know, if you've been following me for a little while, you can't not have an accent. There's no such thing. If you're speaking with an accent. So accent's the sounds, and dialect is everything else, which is basically the different words we use for things, what linguists call lexis, lightning bug versus firefly, pavement versus sidewalk, soda versus pop, thongs versus flip-flops, and grammar, which is the shapes and order of words, how you form tenses and all that stuff. I have versus I have done. We were versus we was, and so on. And remember that all dialects are created equal. A language is just a bundle of dialects, and the only thing that makes a standard dialect different from any other is social prestige, not correctness or logic or inherent superiority or being closer to some sort of abstract ideal version of the language. So you might speak with an Ozarks accent or an East LA Chicano one, but you might be speaking standard American English, a dialect like any other sometimes, and an Appalachian or Chicano dialect at others, depending on words and grammar. Or maybe you've lived in England for 10 years and you say things like have done and pavement, but your accent hasn't changed. In that case, you're speaking English with an Ozarks or California Chicano accent. She's just nip round to the chemist. Or, there's a long queue for the loo, bro.
Okay, wrinkle number one. At some point in the 20th century, speech and accent folks in the North American theater thought it would be handy to distinguish between native and non-native speaker accents, between a Chicago accent and a Russian one, say. And it is handy. This is an important distinction. Native speaker, or L1 accents, are very different from L2 accents, and it's useful to have a way of differentiating them from each other. I like L1 versus L2. But this funny tradition arose where dialect meant native speaker accent, and accent meant non-native speaker accent, even though we're really just talking about the sounds either way. So you had a Texas or a London dialect, but a Russian or a Mexican accent. Now, this usage is totally at odds with the ways both linguists and the general public use and understand these words, so it was never a very good idea. But I'm mentioning it here because a lot of actors have encountered this in their training or in the profession, and it usually leaves them in some degree of confusion.
Wrinkle number two. Most linguists really don't like the word dialect at all. That's because it's often had a pejorative connotation and mostly been used to refer to non-standard dialects, so it's used to diminish, discriminate, and dismiss, which, if you've been paying attention, is both a massive societal problem and just gets the linguistics wrong. Standard dialects are dialects just like any others, and the only thing that makes them special is social prestige. But the idea that they have some special, superior status can be really hard to shake if you haven't been taken through the basic linguistic facts of life. So using the word dialect at all sometimes seems like it's not helping matters. So linguists tend to talk about language varieties instead. Multicultural London English is a highly innovative language variety. Mainstream American English is a phonologically conservative variety, etc. I'll probably keep using the word dialect here because not everyone will catch this video, but now you'll know what it means when you hear linguists talk about language varieties and why they don't love the word dialect.